And welcome to Jump Button Gamer Podcast. I'm Mike Woodard, that's Costa Vianis. He's the man, I'm the myth, and the legend is going to be today's show because we have a lot to talk about today. Costa got his hands on Cyberpunk 2077, so he'll give us his first impressions of the game, and he'll also let us know what he thinks so far of the Xbox Series X. And also, we'll talk about some of the announcements that were made at the Game Awards, which includes Mass Effect, Sephiroth, a lot more. But first, Costa, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this first bit because we do have a lot to get to. But obviously, this past week, December 10th, was my birthday. And it ended up being a big day for fandoms. So obviously, that was the day that Cyberpunk 2077 came out. And then they had the Game Awards later that day. And then, which, by the way, Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year. So congrats to Naughty Dog. And we can always debate whether or not it deserved it over another title, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But my point is, at the same time almost, Disney decided to drop basically every bit of news it had about all of its properties at once. You know, we got news about the MCU, about Star Wars, Pixar films, and I'm bringing it up because there's one title I wanted to single out, and you might know where I'm going with this, but the next Star Wars feature film is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. It's coming out on Christmas Day 2023. It is going to be directed by the Wonder Woman director, Patty Jenkins. And obviously, that's a title that's very familiar to seasoned gamers such as us. It's a series that started on the N64 and made its way to GameCube before it died out with LucasArts. And obviously, it also started as a comic book, but I think it's probably more well known as a game series now. Mm-hmm. So, Costa, when you heard that Star Wars Rogue Squadron was the next Star Wars movie, what'd you think?
I was pretty excited. I think it's the right move. Considering the success that they had with Rogue One, you know, when they started doing like these spin-off side stories in the Star Wars universe, I think that they're realizing, especially with how the most recent trilogy sort of ended, and knowing that a lot of people weren't too happy with how that trilogy as a whole was managed and came together. I think it's very smart for them just to focus on these other stories. I mean, and obviously with the success of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, like there is still very much like this fan appetite for Star Wars TV shows, Star Wars movies, but we want to kind of take a break from, you know, the Skywalker story.
Yeah.
You know, we want to break from that, you know, and focus on some of the other parts, you know, so I think it's great. Patty Jenkins is a great director. I mean, it speaks volumes that, you know, she obviously directed Wonder Woman, which is like the only like shining star in the entire DC film universe.
That's true.
You know, so she knows what she's doing. She knows how to handle these big, you know, blockbuster franchises. So a lot to look forward to.
And the teaser that they released where Patty Jenkins is like roller skating. Did you see that teaser?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah. I think that was actually a very good teaser to drive the interest. And I love that she had the story about her father being a fighter pilot, and she always kind of wanted to recreate that in a film, I guess, like the experience of watching a jet take off and stuff like that. So it's great to see that somebody with such passion about the idea, that the way that can translate to a story about the Rogue Squadron is very cool. You know, now obviously they've said that the movie is not based on the games in any way. Right. Which is fair, because mostly the games are just emulating the battles in the Star Wars films. I mean, Rebel Strike had a little bit of an original storyline, but it was kind of like tucked away. And I don't know what the comic book story was, but I would imagine it featured Wedge Antilles and Biggs Darklighter in some way. I don't know. I would imagine so, because weren't they part of the original Rogue Squadron?
I would think. That sounds right.
I would think. Yeah, so right. I don't remember. Star Wars is such a big field now. It's so hard to keep track of everything. But I'm excited. I was surprised. I was surprised that this is their next feature film. You know, I mean, obviously they released all this information about the upcoming shows, and the fact that they're doing this as their next film, I guess it's kind of like, yeah, like you said, it's kind of like throwing out a bone to all of us who loved Rogue One, you know, and trying to keep that mentality of film while also bridging the gap to the next big trilogy series.
Sure.
You know, I'm guessing that we're all expecting another big trilogy announcement at some point. You know, there's the rumors that Rian Johnson's working on one, or you know, whatever.
Well, with all the content they announced and all the Disney Plus shows, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of material. And that's the other thing too, though, is you know, with just what Disney's doing in general, just between Marvel properties and Star Wars, there's a lot of content there that they're gonna be putting out over the next several years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, not that they care, because I mean they've been doing it for so long now, but you know, hopefully it doesn't get overly diluted.
I agree. I think as long as they're good, I think it'll be okay. You know what I mean? Because I'll just say this: Mandalorian this season has gotten really good. I mean, It's been a great show, but it's getting even better, and it's starting to feel almost like we're getting mini Star Wars movies every week, basically.
Sure.
Those who are following along as the episodes release.
Honestly, I think this will for the folks that, you know, maybe like were fans of the expanded universe, you know, when all we had were just the George Lucas films and everything. You know, this is essentially that for those that have never read like the books or the comics. You know, they are essentially building the live action version of, at least of their version of the expanded universe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna be a lot to take in.
Yes.
A lot.
It already is.
Exactly.
It already is. I agree, because there were some titles in there that I'm just like, okay, Bad Batch, Acolyte, or something, and you know, it's like there's a few in there that I'm like, okay, we'll see, I guess.
The pandemic's already got us all used to just hanging out at home and watching a bunch of TV and movies and playing video games. And so, I mean, Disney's just like, all right, all in. Forget about you having to leave your home and going to the movie theater. This is all content that you can just watch at home.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's not a bad strategy, because it looks like we'll still be in this, you know, quarantine type of mode for at least another few months. So, I mean, it's exciting. If you're a Star Wars fan, I don't know, has there ever been a better time to be a Star Wars fan, just in terms of the amount of content that will be coming down the pipeline?
I mean, probably not. I mean,
yeah.
You know, now all we need is another. Jedi Fallen Order was a good game, but I really want.
It was okay.
I want them to fully realize one day, like the Star Wars, like the sandbox RPG Star Wars game. Hopefully that's a thing one day. Like, so many projects like that have been talked about and have been worked on.
Right.
You know, but then they end up getting canned for one reason or another. So,
yeah.
Hopefully that'll be a thing one day.
It was actually funny, because just the other day I saw a Facebook memory where I posted about Fallen Order. And this was my post specifically. I really want to love Jedi Fallen Order, but it won't stop pissing me off with its inconsistent mechanics and useless early boss fights. And I constantly refer to Fallen Order as the game that I really wanted to love, but I hate. Right. It might be the best game I've ever hated. Like that. So I mean, I hope things get better with Fallen Order 2, but like, yeah, I agree.
It's a Souls-like game, so its intention is to kind of get you a little bit irritated.
I know, and I fell for it, because it's like, and it's so annoying, because like, yes, it included an easy mode. It had like a story mode, and but when I played that mode, it felt like it was too easy. It felt like it was just like, oh, okay, they just shut everything off. And it was just like, okay, you can just whack through and just run through the story. Like, no, I still want some challenge. I want to feel like I'm a cool Jedi. And instead, you're fighting bugs for like 80% of the game. And I don't mean in-game, I don't mean like game glitching bugs. I mean like actual bug-like creatures.
You
spend more time killing bugs and spiders and stupid larvae or stuff like that. You kill more of them than you do stormtroopers. That's like... Oh, okay, all right. I'll get off my soapbox before I waste too much time with this. But anyway, so yeah, like we said, Star Wars Rogue Squadron coming out in 2023. Still a few years away. Ugh. But, plenty of Star Wars content down the line. We move on to the main part of our show. Is technically, I guess, our Now Playing segment, but I'm going to take a back seat during this Now Playing segment. I did finally finish Miles Morales. I 100%ed it. So I took a break and I started picking up, of all things, I picked up Shadow of War. Don't know why, but I've been playing it obsessively over the past few days on my PS5, and it's been fun. So I got that out of the way. Now, Costa, it's time for you to regale us on how has Cyberpunk 2077 been for you so far, along with the Xbox Series X, because when we recorded last week, you had just gotten the system, basically hadn't really messed with it too much. So what did you think both of Cyberpunk so far and the Xbox Series X?
All right, well, I'll start off with the Xbox.
Okay, fair enough.
It's fast.
Yeah.
It's really fast.
I'm fast. I'm very fast.
And very quiet.
Yeah.
And surprisingly so. I know people who had gotten their hands on the console early to review it talked about how quiet it was. Mm-hmm. Also, I was very... also, sort of, just like a little side thing, I was very surprised, like, with actually sort of like the size of it. It's I mean it's a large console. It's not nearly as large as as photos had made it seem to be. Okay. But again, I've said before, I love the look of the console.
Yeah,
it's great. Because when we last recorded, I had just gotten it, but I was in the process of transferring data over. I hadn't played anything on it, and so the first thing I wanted to do was actually do a comparison for myself using Borderlands 3. Because really, I just wanted to see the load times. Like, what is the difference in the load times? And it's by more than half.
Wow.
Half the time. When I would load Borderlands even on my Xbox One X, to the time from trying to start the game and actually being in the game, was like 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow.
Somewhere in there. And now on the Series X, I can go from booting up the game to in it in like a minute.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And the other great part too is that in Borderlands, it's a game where you're resetting the game a lot, or you're quitting and restarting because you're farming enemies over and over and over again. And on the Xbox One, going from quitting and restarting would be probably about like a minute and a half.
Sure.
In this instance, it's like less than 30 seconds.
Ooh, that is nice.
It's crazy how how much more enjoyable it makes playing a game like Borderlands, because now you're not just like sitting and twiddling your thumbs in between, each time you farm an enemy. Like, you're basically right back in it. Right away.
No, and it's funny that you say it, because I know we brought this up on the show before, but that's why I waited to replay Shadow of War, because its load times on the previous console, I remember them being, like you said, like just thumb twirling, sitting there like, oh, come on. And every time you tried to fast travel, it's like, oh, gotta wait a little bit again. But now that I'm playing it on the the PS5, all of those issues seem to be mostly gone, and it makes games so much more enjoyable.
Sure.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So, but but the console as a whole, obviously the operating system is the exact same to the Xbox One X, right? But just the speed is what's been most impressive so far. And Cyberpunk. I'm sorry. What were we gonna say?
No, I was just gonna ask real quick. Like, have you traded in your old Xbox?
No. So funny story about my Xbox One X. I'm actually going to be giving it to my youngest brother.
Oh, well, that's nice.
So he's been trying to get a Series X. He just like I have, he's sort of been striking out and running into some bad luck. But to make matters even worse, he has an Xbox One S. Well, I happen to be going through because before I got my Series X, we've actually been doing online co-op of Gears of War 4. So that's actually another thing I've been playing recently. But I was playing that prior to getting my Series X.
Right.
And he had his controller plugged in, like the playing charge. He had the USB cable plugged into his controller while he was playing, so he could charge it while playing at the same time. And he accidentally tugged on it just a little, I guess, and his console fell.
Oh no!
And it hit the floor.
Oh no!
And something inside of it obviously got knocked loose or whatever.
Oh, that's the worst.
And so his 1S is dead.
Oh no!
So right now he is not playing anything on Xbox. But I told him that if he wasn't able to get a Series X prior to Christmas, because that's when I'll be seeing him next, I would bring my 1X down, and he could just use that as his Xbox until he gets a Series X. So I still have my 1X. It's just it's all I've already got it sort of like boxed up in a way, and
right.
So I'll just give it to my brother.
Because I guess the point is like I know some reviewers have already said like some reviewers, like the early reviews of the X of the Series X was like, I never want to play a game on the Xbox One X ever again now that I have the Series X. Does it feel like that already?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, it's just the how much faster everything is. It just changes the overall experience. A number of the games that I'm playing right now, like even Cyberpunk, which I'm about to talk about, doesn't have the next gen upgrade yet. Right.
Exactly.
But just the fact of how smoothly it's running, and steady frame rates and everything, like all of that really makes for a great experience, regardless of not having, whatever ray tracing and everything available in the game right away.
Sure.
But to actually get to Cyberpunk, I'm really, really enjoying the game so far. I've only gotten into it like about 3 or 4 hours into it, but holy crap. I mean, like this game is so, it's dense, right? There's just so much stuff to take in. And for me, because whenever I play games like this, the closest example I have to Cyberpunk is Fallout, right? It's a sci-fi setting, open world, and you just want to explore every nook and cranny because you don't want to miss anything,
right?
Even in the early missions, I was like, oh, they're not gonna have like a whole lot of like unique stuff because they're just sort of dipping your toes in the water, you're getting the mechanics down and everything, but I am still looking in every corner, opening every.
Exploring the whole world.
Just exploring everything because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to, looking like, oh, like there was actually this little hidden thing that you could have gone. I don't want to. I don't want to miss anything. And so, and when you play a game like that, obviously it slows the pacing down a little bit. But,
sure, yeah. Well, and that's what has to be understood. What a lot of people, like the marketing for this game has kind of made it seem like it's a GTA style game, when really you have to remember it's an RPG. So it's not going to have that GTA style pacing.
I mean, it's a little, well, it's definitely, I would say, like one part GTA, one part, it's like if Grand Theft Auto and Fallout sort of had a baby, because it also does have things like, if you commit crimes that are witnessed, then there is like a police rating system and stuff like that. I have not experienced that myself. I have seen it. They'll like it was like the stars, the star ratings and everything. They have a similar system in Cyberpunk. But the voice acting in this game is amazing.
Is it? Oh wow.
It is great. I ended up going with anyone who already knows when you're building your character at the beginning.
I was just about to ask if you did you make yourself in the character creator, or did you just what was your thought process?
Some elements, yeah, but mostly no.
Okay.
Because I really just leaned into like the tone of the game.
Okay.
You know, like my guy's hair it's very like punk rocker.
Okay.
Right? Sort of thing. You know, really the only element of the character that that spoke to me like, okay, like this is how like how I think and how I think, you know, this character will play out. Was choosing like the character's background, because you have three choices. Mm-hmm. You have nomad, street kid, and what they call corpo or corporate character. And one of the sort of like the foundations of being like a nomad character is sort of, you know, having this sense of integrity and honesty and everything like that. I'm like, you know, that's generally how I play like RPGs. Like I try and play like the good guy or whatever. You know, yeah. Even though like I know inevitably like, I'm gonna end up killing people. I'm gonna end up doing some pretty like seedy things in the game. But like, you know, that sort of spoke to me a little bit, because you're also an outsider to the city.
Sure.
You know, as a nomad, you know, so I ended up going the nomad route.
Okay.
You know, and just what I've played so far is just really interesting. And they put some pretty tough choices early in the game for you. Like, you know, I'm sort of playing, I guess, like the first, like I'm actually currently in the middle of, I guess what would be like the first like big mission of like the main story.
Okay.
And this is sort of, and you're already sort of noticing very early on, like, okay, you know, I'm gonna have several choices on on the decisions I can make.
Sure.
You know, and you have to decide who do I not want to piss off in this instance. You know, like the characters that you're meeting early on and whatnot. So
right.
It is a ton of fun. The gun gameplay, like a little bit to get used to. It's different from a traditional first person shooter. Because I did actually notice right away. I'll have to look into the settings and see if it can be turned off. But I noticed that there's actually a very light sort of like auto lock mechanic. Like when you aim down, if you happen to aim down sight right at someone, it does sort of hone in on the enemy.
Sure.
But because like I did not expect that at first.
Oh.
You know, because I was thinking, okay, like I'm about to I'm gonna be slightly off center, and I'll have my thumb on like the right thumbstick to readjust to center my shot.
Right.
But it would have already done that for me, and then when I fire, because I'm not expecting the auto lock, I end up moving myself off center and like missing my shot. So that's taken a little bit to adjust. Like I've kind of like already adjusted to it.
Right.
And one other thing I just want to mention real quick is there's you sort of have like the combat tutorial session, and you are put in like this VR experience within the game. And the moment I got to do melee combat with a katana was pretty cool. What
makes it unique?
During the training session, like they have you like practice, you know, with handguns, with rifles. Then you practice some stealth things and some hacking. And then at the very end, they throw a bunch of enemies at you at once, like 3 or 4 enemies. And they're like, you know, take everything you've learned and take down your enemies.
Of course.
And so you get a handgun, a rifle, and a katana. And so it was very frantic and kind of rewarding in a way. Like I'm going around like, you know, handgun, boom, 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 couple shots done, and then whipping out the katana and sprinting in and just slicing and dicing, and you feel like a badass.
Awesome.
You know, it does a really great job of making you feel like this punk rock badass, and so I am super excited to like get knee deep into this game and explore it even more.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you see yourself like committing to it over like the winter break and everything?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I might not make my family happy if I end up bringing my Series X with me when I visit them. But gosh, I mean, because the game is it's a blast.
Now,
really,
how
really
is it running on the Series X? Because obviously there have been reports that on the last generation of consoles, which hilariously now is PS4 and Xbox One X, it has not been running very well according to many user reports. So how is it running on the Series X? We know it runs pretty well on a high-end PC.
It's been running smooth. I haven't really run into any issues at all. There was like one moment, where it seemed like a little tiny bit. It was only like half a second, but my eye caught it. It was like this weird thing where my character in a very early mission was like carrying a body and had to put it down, and in that animation, like it looked like the left arm sort of like shook kind of awkwardly when it happened. But other than that, like it's been smooth.
Okay.
I actually have it set on performance mode. Okay. So I'm not playing it in 4K. I'm playing it at 1080, 60 frames per second.
Oh, okay.
So I have not actually tested it at 4K yet, but I would much rather have like a smoother overall experience and maintain like that steady frame rate and everything over the course of the game. Yeah.
So that mode, does it like not have like ray tracing and stuff like that?
Well, ray tracing
is it a trade-off?
Well, ray tracing isn't readily available on Xbox Series X and PS5 just yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now that's not coming until they make the official next gen releases.
Right. Now the thing is, like in the settings, like ray tracing is a feature you can turn on and off, but in this instance, it doesn't change anything because ray tracing is not in the game. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Because like they have a lot of like I guess like the PC settings, that you can change, but it's running smooth. I haven't run into any issues. It is, for me so far, it is living up to the expectations that have been set.
Well, that's good
for it. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's what you want after this game's been delayed multiple times. Yeah, it was it like almost to the point where you're like waiting for it to like be available to download, and you're just like, I'm not gonna believe it until it comes up.
Yeah, well,
until I hit the button and go into the game, I won't believe I'm actually playing it.
Yeah, right. Because I got the digital version of the game, and so there's this part of like, I'm going to click on it, and it's going to tell me, nope, can't play it.
Nope, it's been delayed another 3 months.
And the crazy part is I had forgotten that Cyberpunk had originally been announced back in 2012. Mm-hmm. So it's been 8 years. I mean, this game's been 8 years in the making.
I remember seeing like some sort of YouTube comment that somebody screenshotted, and it basically listed all the things that have happened ever since Cyberpunk was released, and it was like crazy. It was like 9 Assassin's Creed games or something, and just a crazy amount of things that all been released ever since it was announced till now.
Right. Another thing I will say is. I mean, there's just so much stuff to like sort of keep track of as far as like character progression. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty soon you have your level ups, but then every time you level up, you get because you essentially have 6 skills or I guess attributes.
Sure.
Right, and then you have perks for each attribute.
Oh, okay.
And so you get 1 attribute point and 1 perk point each time you level up.
Right.
And so you have body, which involves like your melee strength, your health, and everything you have. So you have the physical, you have the intelligent, and you have the technological attributes. So body and reflexes are your physical attributes. Reflexes sort of also play into your gun handling and like your ability to get like critical hits and stuff like that with your attacks. Then you have technology, and then this other one, which is it's just called cool, tech and cool, which involves like how well you understand like it affects like your ability to craft things. and whatnot. Then you have the hacking portion, which is like intelligence and why am I blanking on the last one? Either way,
I don't know.
It's right, but it's obviously hacking is a major part of the gameplay,
right?
And it really so you have all these ways, like what are you going to focus on? And I'm having a hard time determining early on, what it is that I want to focus on.
Yeah.
And it's still like I'm level 4 right now with my character, and I value so many different things with the character, so it's going to be tough to decide. And then you also have like your actual augmentations you can make to your character.
Right.
As far as like body attachments and other things like that. So I can already tell there's going to be a near overwhelming amount of sort of customizations and options that I'm going to have to decide on for my character down the line.
Right.
With how am I going to grow and craft my character? What is my playstyle ultimately going to be? And I think playing through like this mission I'm currently in the middle of, once I actually get into because right now it's just about a bunch of talking and story elements right now. But once I actually get to execute what's being planned within the game, I think I'll hopefully just like figure out what approach I'm going to enjoy the best. So
cool. So, quick story that for Christmas every year, my family does, like, we have an extended family Christmas Secret Santa, and then we have, like, a siblings-only Secret Santa. Mm-hmm. And in the siblings-only Secret Santa, there's generally a high money limit for us. Like, we spend more for each other than the extended family. Mm-hmm. And then my mother generously, I think she added money for all of us to add like an additional $50. So I put Cyberpunk on my list. I figured, hey, you know what? If I get it for Christmas, yeah, I'll take it. I'll start playing it. Because I've watched a few videos of some of the gameplay early on, and it does look interesting. It looks engaging. So if I get it for free, I'm going to give it a try. Because I don't think Cyberpunk generally falls into the category of game that I tend to like, or at least maybe the type of game that I don't pursue. But if I get it for free, and then I have the holiday break to play it and maybe get into it, yeah, I'll see. Should be fun. I think. Hopefully,
it's living up to it. I'm excited. Haven't I don't know when it'll happen, but I have not met Keanu yet.
Oh no! What's his name in the game? Johnny Storm or something?
Johnny Silverhand.
Silverhand. Okay, Johnny Silverhand. No, you got to meet Keanu.
No, I'm pretty sure it's got to be close because he was such an integral part of the marketing and everything for the game. So
absolutely,
I imagine I'll be meeting his character.
There was even that little Easter egg about like if you tried to play the game early, he showed up in a message saying like, "Hey man," something about like basically just go away. So that is good that you're excited. I think we do have to bring up the fact that it is a little bit disappointing to hear that Cyberpunk has not been playing well on the last gen consoles. Mostly because, and the reason that's disappointing is just the way that they've handled the release of those games is a little bit shady, I guess you can say, in the fact that they had such tight review embargoes. Their embargoes were so tight that IGN, when they did their initial review, they were not allowed to use their own footage. Mm-hmm. Which, and I listened to one of their podcasts, they said that's rare. Like, that's not something that that's not a stipulation that a company often does. So, sure. It's good. We can be excited about this game and all that, but I just feel bad for anybody who maybe just has a PS4 or Xbox One, and if the game isn't playing to the point that it's not really playable or enjoyable, and they paid money and waited all this time to be disappointed. I hope CD Projekt Red does them good eventually, like maybe some patches or whatever, but it feels a little bit wrong that they got a tiny bit misled here. And it's led to some outcry on social media. So I think we at least have to address that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
From what I know of CD Projekt Red, like they have a pretty strong reputation as being very fan friendly, right? They take steps and do things that a lot of other large AAA developers don't do.
Sure.
Obviously, I think in this instance you might have a case where, because they are apparently, like I was actually not aware, but they are like they have stock, like right. they can be purchased on the, I guess what the Polish version of the stock market,
stock exchange, sure,
exchange, right? So they are beholden to shareholders, right, and so.
And their stock dropped already.
It did.
It dropped like, what, 30% or something?
But on the flip side, they've already made a profit on Cyberpunk.
Exactly,
Day one, they sold enough copies of Cyberpunk to make a profit. Like, they have already made back all the money from development and marketing.
Right,
exactly. Like, that... Probably, like, I don't know of any other games that have done that, maybe other than, what, Grand Theft Auto. Like, GTA 5 might be, like, the only other game that has done that.
Yeah,
right.
Probably.
So, I mean, generally big games like that, like maybe within like the first like few weeks, they'll have made all their money back. But this happened in one day. Like, they knew, like the day after they launched, they had known, or by like the next day, second day, we're in the black.
Yeah,
we've made our money, all of our money back and more. Right. Yeah. But obviously, there's definitely probably, wow, that was an oxymoron.
Definitely, maybe.
There almost had to have been some arm twisting from shareholders. Like, you've delayed this game enough. You know, it runs well on PC. It runs well on the newer consoles. Get it out the door. We can't, because we can't afford to delay it any longer.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that there's probably definitely some pressure to be like, we got to get this out at some point. And I think even more so is that, you know, we're all in this pandemic right now, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody's at home playing games. So I kind of agree with that. Maybe there's some pressure in the fact that we're all at home right now playing games all the time.
Right.
But, you know, we just got the news of the vaccines coming, and so it's like there's the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know some gaming companies' stocks have already gone down because of investors just realizing, well, when the pandemic ends, video game sales are probably going to maybe not go down, but they're probably going to regulate themselves back to normal. So maybe there's more pressure to get it out this year while we're still at home, all playing games, all desperate for new content to keep us all distracted before the pandemic ends.
I think regardless, you know, pandemic or no pandemic, you know, Cyberpunk was going to sell a lot, and they were going to make their money. You know, maybe not in one day, you know, but definitely within like a couple of weeks. You know, it's just it's one of those, you know, big AAA open world games. Like, those types of games always sell well. GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Elder Scrolls, you know, now Cyberpunk. You know, there is a large group of gamers out there that just love those games. I'm one of them, you know, and so.
Me too.
Right. And so to say that the pandemic, right, they want to cash in because people are at home, but again, like, I'm sure they know, like, they knew that they had like basically a game of the year level game in their hands that people were going to be very eager to purchase and play.
Right.
You know,
sure.
I think this is, and honestly, I do think that this is this has got to be a common issue. I can't remember really much exactly if there were really any games. Well, really, there when we had the transition from PS3 and 360 to PS4 and Xbox One, there weren't any games of this caliber, like coming out at the exact same time as Nuisance. Like the biggest game I can remember coming out at that time was Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know, and you know, while those are open world games and everything like that, this is something completely different.
Right.
This is on another level, and so it is going to make developing things difficult. In open world games like this, I mean, it is like Bethesda is notorious for their games launching with a plethora of bugs.
Well, right.
You know, I think the people who are most upset are probably people who might not be as familiar with these types of games, right?
Sure.
Maybe this is their first experience playing like a sprawling, dense open world RPG, and they didn't know to expect that they could run into some bugs.
Maybe,
you know?
and that's possible.
Because I have seen that there are a number of people online who have played a lot of Bethesda games, who have played a lot of Rockstar games, and just other open world RPG style games, and they're able to say like, this is to be expected. Right. But at the same time, though, there is the whole thing like, but you have delayed this game several times to make sure that the game comes out as polished as it possibly can.
Right.
You know, and if you're playing it on PC, if you're playing it on PS5 or Xbox Series X, you're playing a relatively polished game.
Right. Sure.
You know, but it's, to your point, it's the PS4, the Xbox One gamers, you know, that are having to deal with the bugs that might ruin like the experience, that are they're sort of taking you out of the immersion that this game is trying to construct, you know.
Right, and then of course you do have to see it from their side. You know, they're trying to put out 9 different versions of this game on essentially, I mean, at least 2 levels of game consoles.
Right.
As well as PC. But, you know, there's just so many different versions of this game that they're trying to put out, so that gets complicated. And obviously these games weren't built, and like, you know, there's not even a next gen version of these games yet. You know what I mean? Like, so they weren't being made with next gen in mind. So it, you know, they were initially being built on last generation's hardware.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And yes, there will be, you know, next gen version down the line, and it's everybody's own opinion. If they can deal with the bugs, you know, and the gameplay, yeah, then you're probably getting a good experience from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And CD Projekt Red has a history of supporting their games post-launch. They do, you know, with like Witcher and all that. They do have that rapport of caring for their games even after launch day. So in a few months, you know, and maybe not even a few months, maybe a few weeks, you know, patches will come out, things will get better. You know, I mean, you know, this happens sometimes. It's maybe not to the level of like No Man's Sky disappointment, you know, but even people who are disappointed by No Man's Sky, if you play it now, from everything I've heard, it's actually a really good game now. You know, it took a long time for it to get there.
Right.
But it's a good experience now. And if Cyberpunk is a good experience for most right out of the gate with some bugs, then yeah, I mean, it could be even better in just a few months or weeks.
It definitely doesn't help also that, you know, the PS5 and the Series X have remained difficult for people to purchase. Right.
Of course.
Without having to pay a scalper.
Right. Exactly.
So obviously, so that's the other thing too. If the next gen consoles were more readily available, then you would definitely obviously have fewer people experiencing these issues.
Sure.
You know, but again, Cyberpunk is just one of those games that has been so hyped up, and everyone's been a lot of people have been looking forward to playing. You don't want to wait to play it. You know, so if you haven't been able to get a PS5, if you haven't been able to get a Series X, if you don't have a high-end gaming PC, you know, you want to give it a try. Like, it's available to you to play. Yeah. You know? So, knowing knowing CD Projekt Red, I'm sure they will do their best to get patches out as quickly as possible to try and rectify the issues. At least the ones that are like the worst ones. Like they will prioritize the ones that seem to be the most game breaking or most immersion breaking bugs. So it is a great game, and I hope that everyone who's playing it right now eventually gets to sort of experience it in the same way that I am. Regardless of whatever console you're playing it on. It is true. If they had released it in time, this probably would have been Game of the Year, I think. I believe, if they had released it in time. But it wasn't, and there's more work left to be done,
And speaking of Game of the Year, that makes for a fantastic segue into the next segment of our show. Last week in game news, as we mentioned at the top, the Game Awards took place this past week. And again, as we mentioned, we're not going to go through all the winners, but obviously the big winner was Last of Us Part 2. It won a majority of the awards, like Best Action Adventure. Laura Bailey won Best Actress for voicing Abby. Obviously it won Game of the Year itself. And, and that was kind of expected. But like you said, maybe Cyberpunk would have been in the conversation if it had come out in time. Maybe it could theoretically be in the conversation next year, depending. Yeah, but of course with the Game Awards, it's not really the awards themselves that matter that much as the announcements that are made during the ceremony. And there were a few big announcements made. One of the first little bits of news here is that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has added Sephiroth from the Final Fantasy series as a fighter. Mm-hmm. We don't have to comment too much on this, but I just wanted to throw it out there. I mean, I was, when I heard that, I was like, okay, cool, I guess. I honestly haven't played Super Smash Bros. Ultimate ever since that first few weeks that it was out.
Same. I haven't purchased any of the character DLC
right
for it.
It's just, it's one of those, it's a great party game. If I'm, at somebody's house and I play it, it's a lot of fun. But to have it on my own, it's just I'd rather be playing something else.
Yeah, and I can't, I can't even try to dabble in, the online
fighting I don't want to touch that.
I'm nowhere near that level.
No.
I'm a very casual Smash Brothers player.
Yes.
I do enjoy playing it. Again, it's one of those things, and because of COVID, I haven't really had those opportunities to, play Smash Brothers with family and friends and whatnot. So I mean, they're such fun games, but without the ability to, without having really the chance to play it with others in person, at least for me, there's no incentive to get the extra characters.
Yeah, no, I agree. So from one franchise to another franchise now this one's been kind of dormant though. Microsoft announced that Perfect Dark is coming back. And it's been a while. This was a game. This is a game being made by The Initiative, which is Xbox Super Studio.
Yep.
I guess it's relatively new. So they revealed a cinematic trailer, no gameplay. Apparently the goal of the game is to deliver a secret agent thriller set in a near future world. So that's about all we know.
Right.
There's not a whole lot. Now, obviously, the last Perfect Dark was way back.
It was a launch title on the 360.
On the 360, yeah. So that's been a long time.
Perfect Dark 0.
Perfect Dark has been in the dark. It has gone dark
and
up until now.
And there had been a lot of speculation as to what The Initiative was working on. Mm-hmm. I mean, Microsoft has referred to The Initiative as being a quadruple A studio. I mean, they have brought people in who have worked for some of the biggest developers and have worked on the biggest games,
Crystal Dynamics, Bungie, Naughty Dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are some guy from folks from Bethesda and stuff. So they have got, the cream of the crop working on this game.
Wow.
I mean, I'll admit, I was a little bit bummed out at first that they decided to put this, instead of developing like a whole new IP.
Sure.
They're reviving Perfect Dark.
Right.
I feel like they could have handed Perfect Dark off to another studio to work on.
Sure.
But,
well, here's the question. What makes Perfect Dark as a series stand out from other shooters or other action games like it?
I honestly
what makes Perfect Dark separate itself from the pack? Like that's my curiosity.
Well, see, they're leaning on the nostalgia of the first Perfect Dark from the Nintendo 64. Because Perfect Dark was sort of like the counterpart to GoldenEye.
Right.
It was like the other first-person shooter that everyone enjoyed playing, like multiplayer and whatnot. I never played Perfect Dark Zero, so I don't really have much of an impression as to what does like a modern Perfect Dark game, like what is it supposed to be like,
right?
So we'll see. I'm guessing this will be some sort of open world game.
Sure.
I would imagine, because I think that those are the types of experiences that Microsoft is trying to build for the Series X moving forward.
Right.
But listen, I'm willing to give, like I said, knowing all the talented developers that are working on this game. Like, I am more than willing to give it a shot and ultimately see what it ends up looking like, as far as gameplay goes. But this is I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, I mean, this game is definitely, at best, like 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And I guess for me, it would just, like I said, I'd have to see, like, what does the gameplay bring in terms of innovation, and then I can sort of gauge what my interest would be,
Sure.
going forward. So one of the bigger announcements, those were just kind of warm-up teasers for this segment. One of the big announcements was the continuation of Mass Effect. BioWare has teased a new Mass Effect game based on the teaser. It seems to be a continuation of the story from Mass Effect 3. But the teaser ends with just saying Mass Effect will continue, which kind of sounds like one of those old sci-fi serials, or actually kind of sounds like an MCU film, like Ant-Man's story will continue in, right. And then they give you the next film. So, but yeah, it looks like this will be probably like a Mass Effect 4, most likely. And we already know there's a Mass Effect remake in the works as well, or a remaster at least in the works. So, are you excited for a potential new Mass Effect, or does the Andromeda effect on the series kind of temper expectations?
I don't know. Obviously, if they're trying to, because Andromeda was like, I can't remember how far of a jump they made in time with Andromeda. Yeah. I think it was something like 70 years or something after the events of Mass Effect 3. Obviously, I'm assuming, because I haven't read people's dissection sort of the trailer, but I'm assuming that this is Liara T'Soni, who is a character, the blue alien character.
Oh, okay.
That they show in the trailer. I'm assuming that's her. And so I mean, it might be a good approach. I mean, I love the Mass Effect games. It was. I mean, Mass Effect 2. Holy crap! Like that to me was one of the best games of the PS3 360 generation, bar none. Like for me, that was like a top 5 game of that generation.
Right.
And so by doing like a more immediate sequel to Mass Effect 3, it allows them, I think, to bring back characters that everyone really loved. I mean, because that was one thing that Mass Effect did so well with their story, is that you had 3 games with all these characters that sort of followed you along, and you got to see their character progression, you build those connections with them. And so by bringing them back into the fold, which can be, I guess, assumed based on this very, teaser, this very teasy trailer.
Right.
I think that might be the best approach for them going forward. And obviously this next Mass Effect game is going to come after the next Dragon Age game.
Right.
And you could tell with Andromeda they took inspiration from some mechanics that they had in Dragon Age Inquisition, which worked very well for Dragon Age Inquisition, but I don't think worked nearly as well for Mass Effect. But I will be curious to see, because they also showed a little bit more. They showed like another trailer for Dragon Age as well at the Game Awards. So it'll be interesting to see what it is they pull from that game and put into Mass Effect. But, for the longest time, the two games, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, were, and rightfully so, like felt like different games.
Right.
As far as gameplay mechanics. But you could clearly tell with Mass Effect Andromeda, if you had played Inquisition, a lot of what they did with Inquisition was put into Mass Effect, obviously with like the sci-fi skin on top, and I don't think it translated nearly as well from Mass Effect.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, in Mass Effect Andromeda, it was a pretty, I don't want to say drastic change from Mass Effect 3 to Andromeda, but it definitely felt like a different game. It didn't feel like a Mass Effect game.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
From a gameplay standpoint.
Gotcha. Understood. Well, yeah, I mean, and like I said, you already brought up Dragon Age. They showed off a new teaser. We won't dive too much into that because not a whole lot has been revealed yet. But it was, just another, hype. But what I did want to bring up is that this game had been announced previously, but Back 4 Blood was shown off. That's the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. I mean, we've talked about Left 4 Dead on the show before. Apparently, this new game is going to feature really tall zombies. Yeah. 20-foot tall zombies. It's pretty crazy. But, I mean, obviously, it'll be interesting to see what mechanics come back from the Left 4 Dead franchise. Obviously, the gameplay was all about cooperation, and if you got hit to a point that you fell, your teammates would have to save you. I don't know if any of those mechanics are coming back yet or not, but it seems to be the same people who made Left 4 Dead are part of it. So it should be interesting. They're actually going to show off gameplay apparently in about a week, so maybe we'll have more to talk about then, but yeah, the game's supposed to be released on June 22nd, 2021 on, all of, the devices, all the consoles. So, I don't know. Are you going to be interested in Back 4 Blood if it's, a similar Left 4 Dead game?
Sure. I mean, I really feel like Left 4 Dead has left a void behind in gaming that has yet to be properly filled. Obviously, they tried to, was it Turtle Rock? They tried to do was it Evolve? That was the previous game they had done, and I guess that was kind of sort of their attempt at trying to fill the sort of the void left behind by Left 4 Dead. But this, I think, is more of what people are looking for.
Yeah, and as I say it now, I am wrong. They actually did show off a little bit of gameplay. There was a gameplay demo, and the developers say that apparently this game will have everything the fans have asked for. So cooperative action, more playable characters, more missions, more variety. So, I mean, it'll be kind of cool. If you're playing it and if I don't know if they're going to offer crossplay or stuff like that. That would be cool if we could all play it and, enjoy it together. I haven't done a fun, innovative multiplayer game in a long time. So if this brings back some of that Left 4 Dead innovation, then I'm on board for it.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll be excited to see what happens next year. Next year is going to be packed with awesome games, by the way. I mean, I feel like maybe we say that every year, but like, it really looks like next year is going to just be absolute killer year.
Yep.
Which is good. We have something to look forward to. Put this crappy year behind us. So yeah, I'm trying to. Is there anything I missed? There are some announcements that I don't care about as much. Master Chief will be in Fortnite, which is gonna be odd because they already have Kratos in Fortnite. Mm-hmm. So you can literally have Master Chief chasing down Kratos and killing each other. That's kind of silly.
They need a Nintendo character.
They were actually just talking about that on a podcast the other day. Like, I think the only hesitation is Nintendo would never want to see Mario holding an AK-47 and shooting and gunning somebody down. As funny as that would be, yeah. You know, Nintendo, they're way too protective of their properties to make something fun like that work.
What about Star Fox?
I maybe could.
I mean, but he's got a gun. He's got a little laser pistol.
Oh boy. I mean, look, it would be fun, but it's like Fortnite is basically becoming like it's really the only game in existence that is almost like the cross-generational, like almost like a Super Smash Brothers, but for every game company out there. You can have Deadpool, you can have Master Chief, you can have Kratos, you can have so many, all these Marvel characters. You can have Mandalorian and the baby child, you know, like everybody. It's crazy. Yep. I wish I enjoyed the game more. I feel like I should be playing it more.
I don't know if my ego can handle just being beaten by an 11-year-old like consistently. Like I know jumping into Fortnite, it's just gonna be a bunch of like 11 and 12-year-olds, and I'm just gonna be destroyed by them.
Hey, you know, you just gotta use my strategy. You jump into the world, you start scattering around the side of the map, and just stay on the outskirts of the map as long as possible. Yeah. Hide in the most obscure places, and then when it's down to just 2 or 3 other people, then you pop out and start killing. Yeah. Hey, you know what? It might be a coward's way to play, but I make it to the top 10-5 consistently that way.
I think that's how that is. I mean, it's a valid battle royale strategy. Like people do the same thing for like Warzone and whatnot.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about like battle royale type of games. It's almost like the same thing like with the Hunger Games. Remember, like the first Hunger Games movie. Remember how the first advice given to Katniss was don't go for all like the weapons cache that they put right in the middle. Like you just take off and run. Like that's basically the strategy.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think it's a good strategy. I'm gonna defend it.
I mean, if you get the W, then it works. I mean,
exactly. That's all I care about. You gotta be that last man standing. Doesn't matter how you get there. Just so everybody knows, we are taking a holiday break from our trivia because the trivia game is fun, but it does take a bit of research and doing for us. So we're gonna give ourselves a little bit of a holiday break, but we will restart our trivia at the start of the new year. So one of those episodes. So. Well, that's it. That's all we got for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This was a big episode, so I hope you all enjoyed. You can connect with us on Facebook and Twitter with @JumpButtonPod. Until next time, see you in the Funny Papers.